everybody, and welcome back to Book Time. If you are like me, you're in full fall vibes. You are ready for it to be cold, you are ready for it to be cozy, and in my mind, fall and cozy equals fantasy. I always feel more driven to read fantasy during fall, and maybe you feel the same way. So for me, I titled this video, Fall is for Fantasy. Let's check out some fantasy reads that would be perfect for fall. I have actually done some research. I have 6 pages here of some books that I know you may have heard of before, but maybe you've seen them and you haven't actually heard all of their descriptions. I have the page numbers, I have the Goodreads for each one, I have the entire synopsis, so we're gonna go through each one rapid fire and see which ones sound really good in cozy fantasy, or I have dark fantasy, or I have high fantasy, I even have historical fantasy. Which one you're vibing with for fall and which one would be perfect for you. All right, so let's get started. The first fantasy that I would consider probably high fantasy is Spark of the Everflame by Penn. This has 438 pages and a great Goodreads rating of 4.22, which I think is very good. There's little world building, a girl with a hidden past, secrets of old that catch fire, a love triangle, good versus evil. There are like 2 people groups. There are the mortals and then there are the descended. And the descended have like special abilities given to them by the kindreds, who were the gods that came down, and they decided to have procreate with mortals. And when that happened, they created a new breed of people called the descended, who are half-breeds, and they have special magical abilities, and they don't have immortality, but they live for a very long time. Like they could live to 260 plus years. So it's like good versus evil, 2 people groups fighting and vying for power. There's forbidden love, it's enemies to lovers, and it is the most adorable, breathtaking, slow burn. It's sensational. I loved the slow burn in this book so much. It is part of a saga, the Kindred's Curse saga, and I think it's actually book 1 of 4 that is going to be coming out. And it has like a very, very mild spice, like 2 out of 5, maybe even in my opinion, like 1 out of 5. Like it was so mild. There is definitely one scene that, if you are not someone who favors that, you can skip past, but for the majority, it was just a clean, very good, very awesome high fantasy read, and I highly recommend it. On Goodreads, it says it's perfect for lovers of dragons, angst, slow burn, epic love, and banter. People who love ACOTAR and From Blood and Ash will love this. So I highly recommend this. When it turned fall, I felt like this was the perfect thing to pick up. I actually have read this and I gave it 5 stars. The ending for the first book was absolutely jaw-droppingly amazing. You have to run and get it. The next book that I found would be really interesting. Now, this is not a new book. This was actually published, I think, back in 2020. But I really haven't heard anybody talk about it unless it already peaked. And then maybe, just like Colleen Hoover books, it can circle back around and become very popular again. I don't know if you know this, but her book, It Ends With Us, was like number 2 in paperbacks because of all of the publicity around the movie, and it just like circled back around in popularity. But this book is called When Kingdoms Fall by Callie, Dahl. It has 473 pages, and on Goodreads, it has a rating of 4.08. I have a synopsis written out. It's kind of long, so bear with me. Men feared monsters, yet fear made men do monstrous things. The gods are gone, leaving 3 races divided, broken, and without balance. All that remains is a curse, a single curse, one to haunt and devour the mortals for their unholy betrayal. A mortal girl. Thrafton has 2 rules: never leave the safety of the walls and never enter the Wyland woods. Those who enter never return. Willa Thessalor is left with an impossible choice: be killed by the monsters hiding beneath pretty lies and faces, or enter the woods and face its woes. An elf prince, Tigest Silpator, is a prince with no kingdom to rule. He can feel his immortality and magic slipping slowly from his grasp. When the royal elf finds himself back in the cursed land of Kalandra, he discovers something more addicting than his plans for retribution: power. But to attain it, he must make a bargain and risk sacrificing all he has ever known and loved in the process. A Fey prince, so it follows 3 different people. Serene Valken is a troubled prince with a rare, unruly magic. He is days away from becoming the king of a hidden realm. Before taking the crown, Serene must confirm the whispers about the worsening Wyland Woods and why his mother has kept their kingdom off the maps for centuries. But Heavy is the bearer of a secret crown once Serene uncovers more questions than answers with the gods' tainted lands. When Kingdoms Fall is a new adult fantasy series intended for audiences 18+. This book is one in a series, and it does have a lot of spice. It was actually categorized as a 4 out of 5, which is actually different for me. Now, if you're someone who doesn't like spice, you can just skip past it, which is often what I do, but just be aware that it is maybe a little bit heftier on that. But the cover is gorgeous. I thought that it was interesting that it's not just, your typical romantasy. There are like so many different people that we're following and POVs and purposes. Like different people had a different purpose in the story, and so we're following like lots of characters, and I found that to be really interesting, so I hope that you enjoy it. The next one has the most incredible cover, as you can see. I also haven't heard a whole lot of people talk about this book, but I do think that it has a really cool storyline and a gorgeous cover, so let's read it. The Veiled Kingdom by Holly Renee. It has 364 pages, and on Goodreads it has a rating of 3.90. Fleeing from my father's cruelty, the wicked king who robbed me of a future, I faced death in the streets, caught between a rebellion and a tyrant's reign. Captured by those sworn to kill me, the rebels remained blind to my true identity, the missing daughter of the despised king. Faced with an impossible choice, I stand before them, join the rebels or face their blades. Yet Ducray, the son of the ruthless rebellion commander, becomes torn between suspicion and a desire that mirrors my own. He allows no one to touch me, so Die If You Touch Her is definitely in here, tries to protect me, yet threatens me at every turn. As secrets are weaved beyond our hidden realm, a fierce battle unfolds within me. As I get closer to the rebels and their cause, my loyalty to the kingdom clashes with my undeniable devotion to Ducray and the burning connection between us. In a world where love and hate are 2 edges of the same blade, I find myself caught in a delicate balance between forbidden desire and my looming destiny. It sounds so good! So not only was the cover gorgeous, I just kind of thought that the whole storyline sounded awesome. She's with a rebel gang that doesn't know her true identity, and if they did, they would probably kill her on sight. And then she has the commander's son of the rebel gang who's kind of like seemingly falling for her. And so it just sounds really exciting, and I thought it sounded like an awesome fantasy read for fall. The next one is actually new and will not be published until October the 1st. But I thought this author had amazing books. I went down her entire log and I was like, wow, she writes really good stuff. So this is Sabaa Tahir, and her book is called Heir. And this has 512 pages, and on Goodreads already it has 4.47, which is a really high rating. And I do believe that there were quite a few reviews. So I also love that this follows multiple characters. One of the things that I get really bored with is if a series follows just like one character for so long and they don't add a lot of different elements or different characters or different timelines. So I feel like having a lot of different variety is really good for me. So it says, an orphan, an outcast, a prince, and a killer who bring an empire to its knees. Growing up in the Keggery slums, Ace has seen her share of suffering. An old tragedy fueled her needs for vengeance, but it is love of her people that propels her, until one hot-headed mistake lands her in an inescapable prison where the embers of her wrath ignite. Banished from her tribe for an unforgivable crime, this is a different character. Saoirse is a down-on-her-luck tracker who speaks to the earth, air, and water to trace her marks. Destitute, she agrees to hunt down a killer who has murdered children across the empire. All she has to do is carry out the job and get paid. But then she falls for a charismatic and inconvenient fugitive who keeps getting in her way. Plus the crown prince of the empire, nephew of the famed empress, but he's loathed to pick up the mantle when his aunt steps down. He refuses to do it. As the son of the most hated emperor in the history of his people, he, better than anyone, understands that power corrupts. When a vicious new enemy threatens the survival of the entire empire, Quill must ask himself if he is able to rise above his tragic lineage and be the heir his people need. Beloved storyteller Sabaa Tahir masterfully interweaves the lives of these three young people as they grapple with the burdens of power, the treachery of love, and the devastating consequences of unchecked greed. Get ready for a dark and breathless journey that will captivate readers and that may cost these young people their lives, their hearts, and their minds, literally. I thought that was so great. I love that it has multiple people that kind of weave together in an amazing epic story. Do we need more? Kind of switching gears, I don't read a lot of dark fantasy, but I am going to be dabbling in dipping my toes in. These are some titles that I am really excited to try. I've heard about them most notably from Liv's library, and I am very excited to try them. I might scare myself half to death. Who knows? I may hate it, but I added them in because they sound incredible. Actually, Immortal Dark, the one I'm going to talk about here in a second, I already ordered and it's on its way, and I think it's coming today. So, dark fantasy, here we go. Immortal Dark by Tigest Grimm. It has 432 pages, and on Goodreads it has 4.04, which is pretty good. The Cruel Prince meets Ninth House in this dangerously romantic dark academia fantasy where a lost heiress must infiltrate an arcane society and live with the vampire she suspects killed her family and kidnapped her sister. It kind of sounds like Bride by Ali Hazelwood a little bit. Loving it. It began long before my time, but something has always hunted our family. Orphaned heiress Kidan Adane grew up far from the arcane society she was born into, where human bloodiness gained power through the vampire companionship. When her sister June disappears, Kidan is convinced a vampire stole her. The very vampire bound to their family, the cruel yet captivating Sinsayos Sagad. That's a really hard name. I'm probably butchering it. To find June, Kidan must infiltrate the elite Uxley University, where students study to ensure peaceful coexistence between humans and vampires and inherit their family legacies. Kidan must survive living with Sinsayos, even as he does everything he can to drive her away. It doesn't matter that Sinsayos' wickedness speaks to Kidan's own violent nature and tempts her to surrender to a life of darkness. She must find her sister and kill Sinsayos at all costs. This sounds so good. When a murder mirroring June's disappearance shakes Uxley University, Kidan sinks further into the ruthless underworld of vampires, risking her very soul. There she discovers a centuries-old threat, and June could be at the center of it. To save her sister, Kidan must bring Uxley to its knees and either break free from the horrors of her own actions or embrace the dark entanglements of love and the blood it requires. It sounds so amazing. I am so excited, and all of the names are very, very hard to pronounce. Good luck. Okay, so this next one is actually hashtagged as a horror, and I never read horror or paranormal because it scares me half to death. It just sounded like it was teetering the line of being horror because it was gory, not necessarily because it was like paranormal. So I just heard vampires, and I'm a lover of Twilight. It was instilled in me at a young age, and I do feel like this is going to be quite the wild ride. So this book was actually an aardvark pick, but I'm pretty sure it's very new. It is 304 pages. It's called So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison, and on Goodreads it has a rating of 3.99. It says, and let's go. A woman must learn to take life by the throat after a night out leads to an irrevocable change in this juicy, thrilling novel. Sloane Parker is dreading her birthday. She doesn't need a reminder she's getting older, and she's feeling indifferent about her own life. Her husband surprises her with a birthday weekend getaway, not with him, but with Sloane's longtime best friend, troublemaker extraordinaire Naomi. Does anybody else have a troublemaking best friend? I think I might be the troublemaking best friend. Sloane anticipates a weekend of wine tastings and cozy robes and strategic avoidance of issues she'd rather not confront, like her husband's repeated infidelity. That's so sad. But when they arrive at the rental cottage, it becomes clear Naomi has something else in mind. She wants Sloane to stop letting things happen to her, for Sloane to really live. So Naomi orchestrates a wild night out with a group of mysterious strangers, only for it to take a horrifying turn that changes Sloane's and Naomi's lives forever, literally. The friends are forced to come to terms with some pretty eternal consequences in this bloody, seductive novel about how it's never too late to find satisfaction, even though it might taste different than expected. It sounds so dark and horrifying and different and crazy and a little icky, but I'm here for it and I think I'm gonna try it. Now we are going to breeze into cozy fantasy. Cozy fantasy is something I absolutely love. I haven't read many. By the way, these are all TBR suggestions for you and for me. I haven't read any of them, but I will definitely be reading them, and they are going to be coming up in my fall TBR more than likely. So let's start on the Spellshop, which I have heard nothing but good things about. This has 384 pages, and this is on Goodreads with a 4.19 rating. A lush cottagecore tale full of stolen spellbooks, unexpected friendships, sweet jams, and even sweeter love. Keela has always had trouble dealing with people. Thankfully, as a librarian at the Great Library of Elysium, she and her assistant Kaz, a magically sentient spider plant, have spent the last decade sequestered among the Empire's most precious spellbooks, preserving their magic for the city's elite. When a revolution begins and the library goes up in flames, she and Kaz flee with all the spellbooks they can carry, head to a remote island Keela never thought she'd see again, her childhood home. Taking refuge there, Keela discovers, much to her dismay, a nosy and very handsome neighbor who can't take a hint and keeps showing up day after day to make sure she's fed and help her fix up her new home. In need of income, Keela identifies something that even the bakery in town doesn't have: jam. With the help of an old recipe book her parents left her and a bit of illegal magic, her cottage garden is soon covered in ripe berries. But magic can do more than make life a little sweeter, so Keela risks the consequences of using unsanctioned spells and opens the island's first ever and much needed secret spell shop. Like a Hallmark rom-com full of mythical creatures and fueled by cinnamon rolls and magic, the spell shop will heal your heart and feed your soul. I absolutely love that it's about jam, and I absolutely love that it's so cozy, and it just feels like it's just warm inside. I don't know, it makes you warm inside. It's cottagecore. It's like everything you want for fall. This next book that I saw was actually on This Bookish Cottage. That's Maddie's Instagram page, and this is the book Small Favors. It has 466 pages, and it has a Goodreads rating of 4.03. Ellery Downing lives in the quiet town of Amity Falls in the Black Spire mountain range. That sounds so cozy. 5 narrow peaks stretching into the sky like a grasping hand, bordered by a nearly impenetrable forest for which the early townsfolk fought off the devils in the woods. To this day, visitors are few and rare, but when a supply party goes missing, some worry that the monsters that once stalked the region have returned. As fall turns to winter, so it is set in fall, I wanted that to be most notable, more strange activities plague the town. They point to a tribe of devilish and mystical creatures who promise to fulfill the residents' deepest desires, however grand and impossible, for just a small favor, and that is where the title comes in. But their true intentions are much more sinister, and Ellery finds herself in a race against time before all of Amity Falls, her family, and the boys she loves goes up in flames. That sounds magical, cozy, set in fall. Sign me up. All right, the next one I haven't heard anybody talking about, but this is A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic. And on Goodreads, it has a rating of 3.93. I forgot to put the page number on here, but it says it is a human, a dwarf, and an elf walk into a bake-off. Sounds like a priest or rabbi and whatever walks into a bar. In the heart of Edenshire, where elfish enchantments and dwarven delights rule, Arletta Starstone, a human confectionist, works twice as hard perfecting her unique blend of baking and apothecary herbs. So when an orc neighbor secretly enters her creations into the prestigious elven baking battle, Arletta faces a dilemma. Being magicless, her participation in the competition could draw more scowls than smiles, and if Arletta wants to prove her talent and establish her culinary reputation, this human will need more than just her pastry craft to sweeten the odds. While competing, she sets off on a journey of mouth-watering pastries, self-discovery, heartwarming friendships, and romance, while questioning whether winning the baking battle is a true prize. Escape to a delightful, cozy fantasy where every twist is a treat and every turn a step closer to home. Does it not sound like the British baking show, but fantasy? To the end of the line, and this book is so gorgeous. It's Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Poranek. It has 336 pages, and on Goodreads, it has a rating of 4.12. That's really good. So the funny thing about this book is I actually got it for my bestie Wendy's birthday, but I didn't get it off of her Amazon wish list at the time. I didn't realize the gravity of not doing that. And so I realized somebody else could get it for her. So I kept the copy that I bought for her, and then I went ahead and repurchased her copy on her Amazon wish list. So we both have this book. Totally gonna buddy read it soon, but it is so good. It's actually in my room, and the whole premise of the book sounds so great. Raised in a small village near the Spirit Wood, Liska, what an interesting name, knows that magic is monstrous and its practitioners monsters. After Liska unleashes her own powers with devastating consequences, she is caught by the demon warden of the wood, the Lezzie, who offers her a bargain, 1 year of servitude in exchange for 1 wish. Whisked away from his grumbling manner, Liska soon discovers the sinister roots of their bargain. And if she wants to survive the year and return home, she must unravel her host's spool of secrets and face the ghosts of his past. Those who enter the wood do not always return. That sounds so cozy, exciting, adventurous, and I have a question for you. Would you exchange a year of servitude for 1 grand wish? I don't think I would. I don't know. Unless I was like really, like there was something physically wrong with me, like say I couldn't walk or I couldn't hear or something like that, and then I would exchange like a year of my life for something that I could use indefinitely in the future, but like it's just such a toss-up. Last one in our cozy fantasy section is The Hedge Witch of Foxhall by Anna Bright. This has 392 pages, and on Goodreads it has a rating that's like sort of lower, but I've heard great things about this, and so this is 3.73 on Goodreads. I actually learned about this book from Darlene Desi, who I feel like I always talk about. I should be like her hype girl. But it says, in this gorgeous standalone fantasy romance, perfect for fans of Margaret Rogerson and Alison Saft, a rebellious witch undertakes a last-ditch request to restore magic to medieval Wales as 2 princes vie for her heart. So there is a love triangle. Fyfon is the last Hedge Witch in Foxhall. To work her magic, she takes only what nature can spare. Unlike the witches of the powerful Foxhall Coven, who sacrifice whole forests to fuel their spells. But across the warring kingdoms of Wales, all magic is fading. Even the dragons have vanished. Prince Taliesin, who kind of sounds like Tamlin, would love nothing more than to watch magic die. But when his father charges Tal and his brother with destroying the King Offa's Dyke, the massive earthen wall raised by their Mercian enemies to the east, which may be the cause of magic's disappearance, he begrudgingly seeks aid from a witch. As whichever prince succeeds in destroying the Dyke will win the throne, and Tal is willing to do whatever it takes to become king, even if he's forced to team up with the Spitfire Hedge Witch, who hates him almost as much as he hates her magic. And even if Daft, his brother, proves to be a worthier rival than he anticipated for the crown, and for Fyfon's heart. So there's a love triangle with 2 brothers, and there's a fight for a crown. There is kind of like a cat and mouse situation because like this prince royalty doesn't like magic or witches. It reminds me so much of Heartless Hunter. Oh my gosh, it's Heartless Hunter. Wrapping everything up with historical fantasy, I did read this book and I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. I actually heard about this book from Liv's library. I do believe this was one of her favorite reads from last year, but this is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. It has 304 pages and it is a Regency fantasy. Think Throne of Glass meets Bridgerton vibes. And the Goodreads on this is 4.09, so it's very high. It's difficult to find a husband in Regency England when you are a young lady with only half a soul. Ever since she was cursed by a fairy, Theodora Eddings has had no sense of fear or embarrassment, a condition which makes her prone to accidental scandal. Dora hopes to be quiet, a sensible, beautiful wallflower during the London season, but when the strange, handsome, and utterly uncouth Lord Sorcier discovers her condition, she is instead drawn into a dangerous and peculiar fairy affair. If Dora's reputation can survive both her curse and her sudden connection with the least liked man in all of high society, then she may yet reclaim her normal place in the world. But the longer Dora spends with Elias Wilder, the more she begins to suspect that only one may indeed fall in love, even with half a soul. Bridgerton meets, this says, Howl's Moving Castle in this enchanting historical fantasy. But I think it was more like Throne of Glass meets Bridgerton because Selena Sardothian is such an independent, free spirit, and she don't need no man, and that's kind of how Dora is in this book. She's not out for a husband. She doesn't think she's ever going to find love, and so she really isn't looking for anything that shows up directly at her doorstep and just blows her mind. These are all my fantasy recs. I hope that you enjoyed them. I hope that you are so excited for fall fantasy time. It's gonna be so great. I hope that some of these titles speak to you. Maybe there's something you don't normally read like me and you wanna try and kind of branch out. I am not usually somebody who goes whole hog fantasy, but I will say that I have really been enjoying fantasy for this season, and I think I am slowly becoming a fantasy girly. I never thought I would say that, but I feel like regular life is just not enough. Just give me regular life, but give it to me better. That's fantasy. I had a little mini book haul for you. Now, one of my books is currently in my car, and my husband has my car, so he's not here. So the first book I hauled is by Laura Dave, who is also the author of The Last Thing He Told Me, which was a fabulous book, but this is The Night We Lost Him. I don't know too much about this book. I got it for Book of the Month, and it follows two siblings who, for over 50 years, their dad has been keeping secrets from them, and when he passes away, they find out things about their life that could change their life trajectory forever. And so it sounded really exciting. It's like a mystery thriller, and you're trying to figure out what secrets were uncovered. And also, it made me think are there secrets that my family's keeping from me that one of them will die and I will find out something insane? I don't know. I'm on the edge of my seat. Next book I hauled is actually an adorable cozy. I love it so much. I don't know if you can see it. Let me try to focus. Okay, it's In the Company of Witches by Auralee Wallace. I am so excited about this, and the biggest reason I am excited is because everyone has talked about this book being so awesome and magical and great for the Halloween season. When a guest dies in the B&B that she helps her aunt run, a young witch must rely on some good old-fashioned investigating to clear her aunt's name in this magical and charming new cozy mystery. And there's a cat, and I have a cat, so I'm so excited about it. The next books that I hauled were also from my Book of the Month purchase, and this I have been so excited about ever since I heard it on Liv's library. She was talking about it one day. A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. I have never tried anything from this author, and I have never tried anything with the name Sorceress in it. I'm usually someone who teeters the line of being very careful and not getting too paranormal and not getting too into witchy magic stuff because I have to be careful, but this actually doesn't sound too much like that. It's kind of like a fantasy set in real life, real time. It says, Cordelia knows her mother is unusual. Their house doesn't have any doors between rooms. There are no secrets in this house, and her mother doesn't allow Cordelia to have a single friend, unless you count Fidala, her mother's beautiful horse, which she rides daily. But more than a simple eccentricity sets her mother apart. Other mothers don't force their daughters to be silent and motionless for hours, sometimes days on end. Other mothers aren't evil sorceresses. When her mother unexpectedly moves them into a manor home of a wealthy older squire and his kind but keen-eyed sister Hester, Cordelia knows this welcoming pair are to be her mother's next victims. But Cordelia feels at home for the very first time among these people, and her mother's plans darken. She must decide how to face the woman who raised her to save the people who have become like her real family. This sounds like a modern family drama with a hint of fantasy and magic. So I don't know, it sounds good and I'm gonna try it. I might hate it, but I'm gonna try it. The next book that I have that I hauled is A Song to Drown Rivers. This is by Liang. Her beauty hides a deadly purpose. It sounds very Mulan-esque. I'm gonna read it for you. It says, inspired by the legend of Cixi, one of the most famous four beauties of the ancient Chinese world, A Song to Drown Rivers is an epic novel steeped in myth about womanhood, war, sacrifice, and love against all odds as the fate of two kingdoms hang in the balance. I'm just gonna read the blurb for that because the description is quite long, but it sounds really, really good. It's like old historical fantasy, which I think will be really, really cool. So I'm excited about it. The last book I hauled was actually from Goodwill, and I just felt like this looked fall to me. I don't know, it might be also a little springy, but it feels like it's also fall vibes a little bit. It's so cute. It's Hens Dancing, a novel by Raffaella Barker. It says, imagine Bridget Jones, cooled out, married, and is the mother of 3, living in the British countryside and suddenly deserted by her husband. The result might be something like this breezy novel. It's very short. I think it's only 275 pages. It's so cute. And the cover, like, I just can't get over how cute the cover is. There's a cat with a bow, there's a beautiful horse, there's hens. There's just so many cute things to love about this cover. There's a teacup. So anyway, I'm very excited about this book. I'm gonna try it. I'm going to definitely put it on my fall TBR, so check back in for a report on this book. But that is my mini book haul. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful, beautiful day. I hope your books are amazing and your tea is delicious, and I will see you back next time for more. Bye-bye.